These are the sacred pine nut forests. For longer than anyone knows, they have belonged to the Washoe people. The trees provided the people with Tah Gum, the pine nut. When the pine nuts were ripe, families moved up to these hills, staying until the snow flew. They harvested hundreds and hundreds of pounds of pine nuts, which they carried back down to their camps. It was their main winter food, Tah Gum.
According to Washoe legends, the people were created by the Maker in this land, and they have always lived here. Mountain ranges mark the eastern and western boundaries of Washoe Washoe territory. Winters were spent in the valleys along the eastern slope of the Sierra Nevada. Then, as soon as the weather permitted, they moved up to their summer camps at Dahawaga. Dahawaga, now called Lake Tahoe, formed its center and heart. In the late 1840s, the world of the Washoe changed forever. Settlers and miners began pouring into Washoe. In 1851, Indian agent Jacob Holman wrote that the Washoes, having been driven from their lands and their hunting ground destroyed without compensation, are in many instances reduced to a state of suffering bordering on starvation. Washoe leaders made desperate pleas to the government, asking to retain the most productive and sacred parts of their ancestral homeland, the Pine Nut Hills and Lake Tahoe. Finally, in 1887, the government enacted the General Allotment Act, and under its provisions, the Washoes were offered a simple choice: accept individual allotments in the Pine Nut Hills or nothing at all. Although all that remained of available pine nut lands was for the most part arid, rocky, and unsuitable for making a home, the Washoe did indeed file for allotments. That is why the sacred pine nut orchards have been preserved to this day. Two Smoky sisters, Teresa and Joanne, have been coming up here to pick pine nuts since they were children. They were out early this summer to see how the fall crop is developing.
Oh, look at the new ones here.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty good crop of pine nuts this year. And we hope that it'll be healthy and not be empty, and we'll have plenty of pine nuts this year.
Well, in some of our legends, they talk about the animals all had work to do, and they each had a job to do, and it was a bird's job to take the pine nuts and plant them where there was a sparse area where there weren't many pine nut trees. This is a fine example of what they look like when they start to sprout, but it was a bird's job to plant those. They had the sharp beaks to dig the little holes. That's one of the legends I think about when I see a pine nut sprouting.
In early fall, some of the leaders went out to see if the pine nuts were ready. They would bury a green cone in running water and pray over it. When it was time for the harvest to begin, the Diobeyu leader sent a message throughout the land: "Come to the Gum Sabai, the gathering of all the Washoe people for the pine nut ceremony." It was one of the major events of the Washoe year, a joyous time for renewing ties with friends and relatives. Elders who remember hearing about those times say that there would be so many gathered there at Double Springs that the campfires ringed the valley. The The ceremony required that they dance from dusk till dawn for 4 days. At dawn on the 4th day, the people carried their pine nut tools as they danced. Then the dancing stopped. After prayers for a good harvest and the health of all, they ate the morning meal together. Only then was it time for the pine nut harvest to begin.
Gee, that's good as gold.
Today, pine nuts are no longer needed for survival, but they are still very important in Washoe culture. The old ways of harvesting are still the most efficient, and the people still go up to the pine nut hills. It feels good, they say. And of course, there must be pine nuts for making the soup that is so important for special occasions.
I kind of think those that go off to the north side, they're not as dry. Because you see them on the south and they seem to be empty. Thank you. Oh, one more. How's that? You just open your sack and they drop right in there. Take me.
Now that you have gathered a basket of pine cones, how do you get the nuts out? The best way, say the Washoes, is the old way. You pound them out using a piece of limb.
I'm pounding them out right now, pounding out the nuts from the cones. Some of them's not easy to come out. They're cupped. It's hard. And if you don't hold it right, they'll give you blister in here. The palm of your hand. If you have soft hands. When I was very young, my mother, I always came out with my mother. We had to. She showed us how, and we had to learn because we had to help her. I climbed trees when I was young without ladders. When my grandma came out, I had to help my grandma. And I would climb trees for her, get the cones off in the sack. For those times we had a smaller version of these baskets that had a handle over the top here to hang on the tree. And that's what I used to put the cones in and bring them to her when it fills up, and she'd pound them out. But I still come up every year doing this because all of my nephews and nieces like the pine nut soup. I usually prepare that for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and our picnics, our family picnics. A few of the elders for our cultural dinner has been coming up to get pine nuts so we could put on our cultural dinner again. And this year the pine nuts are big. They're really big this year. You can't be the only one picking pine nuts. You know, I want to get done so I can pick a little bit. Come on, Marie.
Shirley and her husband Vernell are serious pine nut pickers. They stay in their camp until winter sets in, just like in the old days. Shirley's sister Marie has come up to help.
I think I'll do all of it. It's not much. How did that stuff get in here? I thought I cleaned this pine nut. Oh, there's some big ones in there. I hope they all cook. Some smaller ones. They're all uneven. I need some charcoals. Oh gosh, that's hot. All of it. Okay. Got enough. Maybe a little bit more. I'll have to start shaking.
The purpose of the first roast is to cook the nut meats and dry the shells, making them easier to crack. Very few people roast the nuts in a basket with charcoals anymore.
Oh, hot. Okay, dump it on there quick before my basket burns up.
Roasting the pine nuts in the basket requires a technique of moving the basket so that the charcoals stay on top.
Yeah. Pine nuts are heavy. Oh, Marie. It goes out fast. I'm taking charcoals out, the burned out ones. You have to take them out when they burn out like this and put fresh ones in if the pine nuts aren't cooked. And then start all over again.
The tools used to harvest and process the pine nuts had to be portable and made from natural materials. There were cone-shaped baskets for picking and transporting the nuts, loosely woven baskets for roasting, tray-shaped baskets for winnowing, and tightly woven baskets for making the soup. The variety of tools that were developed for use in the harvest and preparation of pine nuts indicates their importance to the survival of the people.
Now I better test one of these here. Very tasty.
All week long, volunteers have been preparing food for the cultural dinner. Many of the traditional foods will be served. Along with rabbit and deer meat, there will be acorn biscuits, wild onions, and of course, pine nut soup.
You think we'll have enough wood?
I have to make sure all of these pine nuts are cracked. It's hard to crack them by hand when you're working on these pine nuts.
I am repairing my poor old basket. It's seen its better days. Seems like each time I use it, I burn another hole in it. I'll never be an expert where I can finish a job without burning a hole in it. But when it gets old, I think that's one of the things that happen to it too. The willows dry out and they're kind of brittle. Doesn't take much for it to break.
Now it's time for the second roast. First, the shells must be cracked, then they are cleaned from the nut meats by tossing them in the winnowing basket. Only then are the pine nuts ready for the final roast. They taste delicious when done the old way with the charcoal. After the nut meats have been roasted a second time, they are ready to grind into the fine powder necessary for making the soup. The old way is to use a stone and grinding rock, but nowadays, especially for large amounts, the modern method is used, a grinding machine. The powder is then sifted so that any large chunks can be ground even more finely. You don't want your soup to be lumpy.
The nuts for the pine nuts has been cooked twice. You don't cook it again. You don't boil it. You just do the powder with the water and stir it up because it had already been cooked. And this is ready for drinking. And that is what you make. This is what you call the pine nut soup.
Nga shuludi goy. Lewa lew le angawa lew lebe. Demlu angaw lew le washada washu emlo. Iske gareship kadikoy de tumukegi. Danu mile wat elege kebedu gemset. Asdemlu iwi gelu hamo angawa gehi. Angawesa ngahamu guyugesa. Git ngamimin hamo yokida. Gangala ip amida hamo sukea. Huti emile eshibas. Ashteshuflidit elegi. Wadamelewa hamo ngesesa kehi gisa. At angawlewa giwe kehi keshea. Huti be tangaw eshibishke. Asasesige lewe giwe. Hutiwe angawesish kang sudumesa kahamo baya tangawes nga aswaringo ebe de hamo angaw lehulew digum bedo gemset hoya digum hamo yok itoya de hamo ngases hoya adikeshe hulew halinga widi washu emlut elege ke ugelo hamo ngangawa ke pine nut soup ida acorn Ashteshuflu de gisa garora afkabegi, kahashesuri, kahamu baesa, wangagume yesishna, halingenga, garora afkabigisa, kahamu baesa, kinglechi, amen.
Events like the cultural dinner help to sustain Washoe cultural traditions. To get the wild foods and prepare them takes a lot of effort and many long hours. Many of the people say that they don't have the time anymore, or haven't learned how to do it. Here, the young people have the opportunity to help and to taste these foods. The elders can once again sip pine nut soup and talk about the old days. Extra soup and acorn biscuits can be purchased from the takeout table to take home with them. All of the workers for this dinner volunteered their time, and a big part of the fundraiser goes to scholarships for our youngsters' education.
Well, it just seems like it just isn't traditional without the pine nut, because the pine nut soup is so, I know it's always been one of the main foods among our people.